this up.
Yeah, iPhone 14 Pro with no longer a notch. They have eliminated the notch and replaced it with the dynamic island. I think is what they're calling the new pill.
No, that's the UI. That's the UI where the black area grows.
I wasn't clear from their it's just clear that they're using the dynamic island in a very interesting way. With what do we call it now? It's not a notch. No notch looks like that. Is a punch out, a lozenge, a pill. Yeah,
I got the impression that the whole thing was a dynamic island, and the dynamic part of it is the fact that it changes size and functionality depending on what you're doing. But even when it's not doing anything, I felt it was still the dynamic island.
Okay, all right, okay, I'll grant you that. But I mean, you know, at the end of the day, it's smoke and mirrors because the size of the notch doesn't change. It's just
yeah, they just played a little trick and made the background color kind of sneak around the top of the notch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it kind of looks like it's not really, you know, part of the chrome of the phone like it used to be. Mm-hmm. And I was looking very closely. So it looks to me like there is, I think I used the term earlier, an unsafe area as opposed to a safe area where as the dynamic island gets bigger and smaller, there's always this area of it that stays dark. And that's where the sensors are, of course, and the camera. So even as the thing's expanded and it starts doing things, it always left that little area untouched, which is interesting. I mean, it's the notch. It's just a redesigned notch with some stuff going on around it to make it look and feel a little bit nicer. And it is nicer. For sure, it is nicer.
Yeah, it was a human interface guideline VP that introduced an Alan Dye. By the way, coming back to just to follow up on the release candidates. So iOS 16 release candidate is out today. WatchOS 9 release candidate, as I said, is out today for sure. tvOS 16 release candidates out as well. iPad OS and Mac OS are still in beta. So they're not release candidates.
They're having trouble with that. What was it called?
Stage Manager.
Stage Manager.
Stage Manager. Yeah. You know, to be honest with you, I went and updated my iPad to an M1, loaded up 16, turned on Stage Manager, used it for like 5 minutes, and then turned it off.
Really?
You know, it's just not. I mean, like I work on my iPad all the time, and I work on multiple applications at a time, and sometimes I want just that app open, even though I'm moving data back and forth, and it's just not. I mean, I think the iPad real estate isn't enough to have that kind of thing happening, and I find the split view stuff more functional than, you know, dragging them back and forth between split views than no, I don't know if it's called split view.
Do you have a 12.9 inch or 11.7 inch?
I have the 11 inch Pro.
I bet you it's much better on the 12.9. When I was doing a lot of work with the iPad a year or so ago, I found it really is night and day in the way that the multitasking stuff works between the two. There's fundamentally different behaviors, actually. The way that, for example, on the 11.7, when you have a split view, when you have a 3-column split view, it kind of pushes off the content view off the screen when it first opens until you tap it, and then it slides the primary view off the screen and pulls that full screen. Well, it doesn't do that on the 13 inch. It's there all the time. So the 13 inch feels a lot, or 12.9 inch, whatever it is, it feels a lot more like a desktop or a laptop, really, especially when you have it in a Magic Keyboard with the trackpad. You forget you're using an iPad. So
what I didn't like about Stage Manager was the way that it groups applications arbitrarily. Like, I'm sure you can move them back and forth, but then again, I'm not one of those people that uses, you know, that sort of the different desktops that you can have, where you can put your applications on one set of screens and switch over to other ones for context switching. I don't know what they call that feature, but I don't use that. I prefer to have I'm an old school Mac guy. I have all my windows on one screen, and
just give me a really big screen and just one, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I do. Really big screen. I have like a 19 inch or whatever this thing is. I have like the LCD screen in front of me. Like, that's kind of what I use. But and then I have like I use my other monitors for having other experiences. Like if I want to move a meeting over to one monitor, I'll do that, or maybe have the notes on the second one. But I'm not one of these guys who likes to switch back and forth and you know, maybe that's the audience that Stage Manager's built for, because I'm sure there's a way to change the grouping of the applications, but I just didn't like it. And I tried it a few times. I tried it on my Macs as well. I mean, because I do have Ventura running on one of my Macs, and I just found it just wasn't it wasn't a working metaphor that I enjoyed working in, so I turned it off. Right. Mind you, I do like the fact that like it is under Control Center, so if I want to right now, I can go and turn it on. It's not like I couldn't just go and quickly flip it back on and off. I mean, maybe there's a keyboard shortcut to do that as well, but yeah, I just didn't really like it. But anyway, getting back to the iPhone 14 Pro, so Greg Joswiak, or Jaws as they like to call him, introduced it. I was just checking the stats here when we were just chatting. I didn't realize that this phone has a 48 megapixel camera,
quad pixel sensor.
That's a lot of megapixels.
Software.
48 megapixel quad pixel sensor is what my notes say, because they talked about trying to do more interesting things of how do you represent light across all of these pixels.
Right. Yes, the quad thing, yeah.
Yeah, as long as we're in camera, the Pro RAW stuff at 48 megapixel resolution, they apparently have a 2x low light improvement over the 13 Pro, and they showed doing a telephoto that's still a full quality 12 megapixel, which is pretty bananas that you can do that.
Yeah, it's the 3 times magnification, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
3 time optical zoom, 16 billion transistors. Okay, 4 nanometers, Mark.
Yeah.
I thought we a couple of years ago we said you're really hard to get below 5 nanometers.
It's hard. It's really hard.
He didn't say it was impossible. He just said it was difficult.
Didn't say it was impossible. It just said it's really hard.
Oh, okay.
So I mean so a nanometer is 10 angstroms, and an angstrom is roughly the diameter of a hydrogen atom, roughly, approximately. So this is roughly 40 atoms wide. These gates.
Wow,
that's pretty small. It's pretty hard. Actually, it's not clear that they a lot of this is marketing. It's not clear that the gate is actually that width. It's sort of an effective width, which is an effective, like they play tricks with electric fields and things like that, and geometries and architectures of the transistors, so that it acts as if it were a transistor that has a 4 nanometer gate. If traditional scaling worked, so in the old days, it really was the number they gave was the size of the transistor gate, and you could sort of draw a straight line. You could fit a straight line as you made the gate smaller and smaller to what the electrical performance was. Now they sort of continue that straight line and say, okay, we get this electrical performance. It's equivalent to if we had actually scaled down this thing to 4 nanometers, but probably they really aren't, not physically at least. It's kind of marketing, but it's still really fast. It's still really powerful.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Did that answer your question, Tim?
It does, yeah. So it's the new reality distortion field for the 2020s.
Yeah, and next year there will be 3 nanometer. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that said, they have 6-core CPUs with 2 performance cores inside this chip thing, 5-core GPUs, a display engine, ISP, which I can't remember what they said ISP was for, and of course, Jaime mentioned before, the neural engine, right?
The display engine